Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to NSP Patrons video today that I'm making for Gil as part of their custom monthly music review. And if we switch over to here, we have the track on the screen. It's a La 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 Love Song, released in 1996 by Toshinobu Kubota. So we're going to listen through this track from start till finish. We also have lyrics. I found lyric translations for it. I'm going to hear what we think. Let's go, let's do this. Got some interesting chord progressions going on here instantly. It's so mid-90s with the neo-funk soul kind of aesthetic, some electric synthy parts as well, the keys in there. It's fantastic. Oh, it's kind of sexy, isn't it? Oh, okay. Thanks, YouTube. Oh, is it like an intro theme for like a TV show or something like that, or a movie? Great panning of those vocals there as well. It's got some of that kind of 80s aesthetic with the synths and the keys and all that, and the drums as well, that nice kind of ethno groove to it. Great sense of pace to it. The vocal performance is so chilled out and relaxed though, it's so laid back, it's kind of refreshing. Okay, that's a charming little progression there. I like the fact as well that we are going between those main voices and the sides, and that they're clearly separated, and also that we've got male and female vocalists as if they're having a communication between one another, you know? Some unusual decisions there with the triads, but that's fine. That kind of keeps it kind of sounding kind of fresh sounding, I suppose. I know I said that before. I think maybe we've got some semitones, some sort of chromaticisms going on here, or some parallel majors or minors, but at the same time I can kind of vibe behind that. It's such a friendly sounding track that even if there is stuff that's a little bit unusual, it's still palatable. Nice to have the guitar come in the second part. A little bit of development there in the second verse. There's a cute little portamento synth that's going on in the background as well, like a Moog or something in mid to high range, and it glides between those notes effortlessly. It's like a sophisticated, trendy kind of love song. It isn't cheesy with the simple sort of chord progressions and melodies and bass lines and such. It's a very kind of adult, kind of fashionable kind of vibe. It's got a timeless aesthetic to it. There's a lot of music coming out nowadays that kind of reminds me of that kind of stuff. A little bit of vocal fry there. I wasn't sure why we had that interlude there. It was almost short to a detriment. Okay, so our vocal melodies is staying somewhat conservative here. We're not doing too much movement with the tails on his melodies. And back to the "Wanna Make a Love Song" thing. We're collaging them together then, layering them on top. I love the barbershop ba 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 there, like an additional instrumental layer there. It's kind of sweet. This song's flowing by, hasn't it? I'm not sure if I wanted more or less from this track as we went along. It's tricky because like I appreciate the work that's gone into it. You know, like when I listened to this track, we've got lyrics, of course, that I found for this. I hope it's the right version. So we've got this lovely old school purple and white HTML page that I found on the internet for Long Vacation theme, La 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 Love Song by Toshinobu Kubota. So I've looked through this for the lyrics. Hopefully it's big enough for you. I can see it on OBS over here. It still looks kind of rough to read, but we'll do our best, okay? Wanna make love song. You know, that could be taken both ways. You could be wanting to sleep with the person, but you could also be wanting to write a melody with someone, you know, make it a harmony. So this is about people figuring out the relationship they have with one another. They're talking about like the umbrella that they have. They're saying no thanks when I actually meant the opposite. Making them feel brand new and, you know, they want love that's brand new. Oh, it's really short. Before you hear Sai come over here. So I think there's a little bit of complication to it, but in actuality, we do want to have a connection with this person. We're just figuring each other out. I think that's kind of dope. You know, it's kind of the epitome of the sitcoms of the mid-90s, 2000s, is having awkwardness in relationships. Because that's kind of what happens in real life a lot of the time. Not everyone's a savant with the opposite or the same sex. I'm not going to judge. Or whatever else you're into, you know. That's cool. But yeah, let me embrace you, Tyler, and I'll make sure you're happy. The Invisible Knight of Space, you're my shining star. Dope. I like the little linking, like the Invisible Knight of Space to stars, you know. Having that imagery there. Incessantly happy, painfully not admitting it, and that morning will be born our love song. Yeah, I think it's just, you know, it's easy to understand. Because this is my conclusion for this SB Patrons video for Gil of La 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 Love Song. You know, La 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 Love Song by who was it? I need to say the name. Toshinobu Kubota, if I'm not mistaken. I could have it wrong. Let me know if I've gotten it wrong. But look, this is a really well written track. It's a track that I enjoy. It's not my absolute favorite, though I think that's just because of a lack of understanding of the context and importance of it. We've talked about what the song is about in the lyrics. You know, it's about love, some people figuring each other out, kind of being ambivalent about what they want, but eventually realizing that they need to pull each other together in order to elevate it. The vocal performance was great. It was refreshing. It was nice to have multiple different vocalists and different textures there, and the male and female response there. You know, asking to make a love song, etc. It's nice to have that communication between each other. Especially then when like the lady was laughing a little bit, like playing along with it, doing the bit, you know. You know, you have a vocalist who's comfortable within their range, has a great sounding coloration and texture to their voice. It's as well with the rest of the elements of the harmony. They're pleasant to listen to. There's a smoothness to it. We had all the notes in the right places and we harmonized well with the rest of the elements as well. It wasn't just the actual, what's another word for texture? It's not how they rubbed against each other. It's not just how they rubbed against each other, right? And everything was nice and complete sounding. It was an overall really solid vocal performance there. A little bit of ornamentation from time to time, but mainly it was selling the story. And I think that we absolutely nailed it. If we'd put too much vocal ornamentation here or overdone it a little bit, it might have taken away from the merits of the rest of the mix. The structure of this track did not just have one sort of main motif. It had several different reasonably complicated chord progressions here, you know. There were some interesting parallel majors and minors and seventh extensions in that chorus line as well as parts of the verses, although I think we simplified the triads a little bit in those verse parts just to allow for a little bit more sort of variety within the vocals going on again in that verse section, which is a good balancing act, great sense of equilibrium there. You know, like occasionally there were parts on the drums which kind of switched it up, but you had the eighth note groove most of the time. The bass had a little bit of slappiness, sort of octave work in there, mainly stuck with the root notes. There were several different melodies or voicings that were either by themselves or with each other, and it was outside of just the literal voices, the literal sing parts for the backing and also the main. There were like sub layers, and I suppose it's more of a production thing, but also it's about knowing that those sub layers will still work with the rest of the main points of the chords and you know, sequences and rhythms that are present there. And it was a very smooth sounding and complete sounding because we stack things well in the frequency spectrum as well as in the stereo field. I can't help but feel like we could have potentially done more instrumentally later on in the track, especially as it had so much of the story at that point, and especially as the track is 4 minutes 40 and there felt like a lot of real estate. And there also seemed to be a lot of really talented musicians involved with it. This was released in 1996, and it would have been difficult to have sampled a lot of this, so you can assume that there were people actually playing those parts. So it would have been good to hear a bit more of themselves flexing a little bit, but I also, especially that guitar part, we occasionally heard guitars as well. You could have potentially had like guitar and like key harmony, or like taking turns with that solo. It would have been cool to have two different instruments sort of like bond with each other and connect with each other. That would have been great. But that's okay, that's just me, that's subjectivity in music in the review I'm doing. The production, recording, mixing, mastering was splendid. I've got no real complaints about it. You know, it was very, very good for the time that it came out. Not that I'm saying that the production in the 1990s wasn't good. It was great, but it has that kind of warmth to it where it just sounded really smooth and calm and not inoffensive. And it really was, you know, the vocals were polished and pristine sounding. The actual performance of the singer was just absolutely smashed. That was a one-take wonder, I reckon. Yeah, the EQ and compression leveling of the various elements of the mix were great as well. There was a reasonable amount of compression limiting there, not too much, but enough for it to sound consistently loud throughout the entirety of the time. And you know, it was a theme, as I can understand, it was like a theme for a TV show. So like typically with compression for TV shows and stuff like that, you don't really want to mess with the volume of it too much. You don't want massive dips and throws. Especially if it's an opening theme, you want to kind of be like, bam, you know? Bam, bam, bam. But ultimately, I suppose the reason I feel sort of ambivalent to it is because I didn't grow up with it. I don't know, like, how it relates to the show. I don't know how meaningful it is in relation to what it's tied to. Maybe that's the extra ingredient I need to consider this a great song. I can't really fault it. Even though there was some experimentation, it almost sort of like, there were some risks taken with the harmonies, but they managed to lead in a way that was catchy and it was charming, and I don't know. I guess I'm just, my endorphin, like my dopamine receptors are just completely shot. So I need something to really kind of spice me up. I need it to really kind of hit at me a little bit, and this was just so chilled that I just felt relaxed. But still, great song, and thank you very much for watching this review of La 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 Love Song by Toshinobu Kubota. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show a musician some love over the various social medias, and I'm sure this is on other digital streaming platforms. And stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time. Is to help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next review. Spider Hands out.